Hello. So, it's a Saturday. It's a Saturday, so I am out. I'm supposed to go running. I'm out here at the middle school because the park next door to where I live, I think they're having soccer games and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of people out there, but over here there's not too many people here at this field. And it's just a dirt track around. There's somebody with the dog over there, but I went to the thrift store first. And I decided, well, I need to go and get me something to drink, like water, so I can, refresh myself. So that's what I did. But I also got like an energy drink just so to give me a boost or whatever. And now I'm backtracking because if I run, okay, this is an old lady issue, okay? So the old lady issue is that I have bladder problem. So if I happen to run, then a lot of things will just kind of splash inside the bladder and then just kind of ease on out and then drip. And then so I'm having some issues there. I can go to the bathroom before I run, especially when I'm at home. I go in there and then I use the toilet. But since I've been out and about, the bladder tends to get full a little bit. And if I drink anything, it just gets full anyway. So that's my issue right now is that, okay, so I made all this trouble, but I probably could just go and walk around the track. Maybe, I don't know. So I can do that. So anyways, that's what I'm doing. I'm just really, I get this way, if I'm going to do something and I'm like, oh, I got to go run to the store and do something, and then I'm going to go to the track and then I'm going to, do my thing. And then all of a sudden I think my mind starts thinking about my bladder situation and I'm like, dang. But I do have a bladder pad. The only time that I wear bladder pads, and I'm getting very TMI about this situation, about my bladder issue. And I'm not going to be shy about it because, I guess I'm an older woman. I ain't no spring chicken anymore, And so I need that when I have activities that I have to do. I mean, go hiking, go walking, anything like that, especially running. Running is the worst. And it used to be when I used to do training at the gym, I would have to have my, bladder pads on because anything like sit-ups or anything like that, crunches, it would just be a mess. And so that's my issue. And the reason why, and I know this is the reason why, is because of my hysterectomy. I had a visit with the doctor not too long ago, I think about a year and a half ago or something like that. And I had let him know about my bladder issue. Like I'm a little bit incontinent. And I was just like, I wasn't like that before. And he goes, well, normally when you have a hysterectomy, that's it kind of gets worse. I mean, yeah, it gets worse after you've had babies and stuff, which, yeah. But it tends to be a little bit more, it doesn't empty as much and as well as it used to. And the reason why is because your uterus holds your bladder up so that way it can, empty better than, more efficiently and more better so that way it can drain more. But if you have a hysterectomy and you don't have your uterus to hold your bladder up, it tends to go this, hang. So the bag of the bladder where the urine, I know I'm getting very technical with this, okay? So when the bag of the bladder just kind of hangs down like this, so you get water that is just, or the urine that's just sitting in there, kind of like latent, kind of like just sitting there. And so so that's that causes UTIs a lot of time because it's always sitting there. So and I figure, okay, well then if you're active, and if you're active enough, then that could splash around and kind of go out like this. So I'm like, okay, well that makes sense. I can do that, as long as I just, empty the top layer, and then, when the rest I can when I'm running and active or whatever, I can just splash the rest out. And so I kind of, in my mind, that's kind of how I see my bladder situation and stuff. So, having this incontinent thing, I guess it's okay. But so that way it doesn't stay in, especially when you're like active and you're running or whatever. And that kind of helps it to get out a little bit more, so it doesn't stay latent in the bladder and cause any issue or infections and stuff like that. I don't want to be that way when I'm older, like when I get a little bit older and then I have to, wear bladder pads and stuff like that or whatever. I kind of want to stay active and just kind of stay running, so that way my, the urine doesn't stay in the bladder bag or in my bladder, so that way I can just like splash it out so I don't have to deal with it. So anyways, that's kind of my thing. And I have these thoughts of things like that. So just an FYI to all those older women who've had hysterectomies and stuff like that. That's an issue that can be kind of, it can be very problematic, And so thank God it's just the the one thing that I have an issue with is my bladder situation. And then of course I have my hypertension that I have to deal with. And then of course I'm giving you all my diagnosis. So because I think it's important to know that, what people, especially my age, I'm 52 years old, which is really weird because I'm 52. And inside my mind and my body, I feel like I am still in my 30s, which is good, I try to feel that way, try to keep that feeling of I'm young again, I'm young and I can do all these things and da-da-da-da. So I try to keep that in mind and I keep that in a factor. So anyways, here is the field. It's really weird because this track is like, so this is the dirt track and it goes all the way around and it goes this way, and it doesn't go a total around. It's just a half track. So I think it's just weird. Anyways, they built it that way. And then for years, the middle schoolers, this was the middle school. And my daughter went here. It was just, I guess you can say a half middle school. It was like 6th and 7th grade. And that's it. And then they had the junior high where they had to go that way. Now they've changed it in the last 2 years or so, where they shut this one down. And now they have the full middle school that has the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade over on where the junior high used to be. So it's no longer junior high, it's a middle school. And then the high school, so this is normal. So the high school becomes a regular high school with the freshmen all the way to senior level, which is what I grew up in Moab. I grew up in Moab, and I went to school elementary, K through 12, and then K through 5th grade. Then after that, after I got out of elementary school, I went from middle school from 6th grade to 8th grade, and then from 8th grade I went to the high school, which was 9th grade to 12th grade, which is normal, right? So for years, this area right here we live in had only just the 6th and 7th grade for middle school. And then they had a junior high, which is like 8 and 9. And then they had the high school, which was 10th to senior. And it was just a really weird concept to have to get used to that. So, but there's other, schools around this area in the county that have normal, middle schools that go from 6th to 8th and then 9th to senior level. So this area was just the weird one, just the really, um, you know, weird one. Anyways, I think I need to go and either power walk or just kind of trot around and listen to my music and stuff. But I just thought I'd just, do a video because I don't know, I got to catch up on some comments. I know there's some viewers and some people who had taken a look at my videos, which I really appreciate. And I generated a little bit of followers, which is really great. I appreciate you following me, keeping up with my life. As this old woman who has bladder problems. I'm just kidding. No, really, I do. Anyways, that's just part of life, when you get old. You get to be older and these things kind of happen and you have to get used to it. It's just one year after another. It's like, it seems like every year when I get older, especially around my birthday, there's always something that changes in my, in my life, So before it was like all these surprise surgeries and then all these other surprise stuff that I had to go through and all that. So, but I just hope for the best for myself every year, that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to enjoy my life and stuff. And I'm going to, I guess, I don't know if manifestation is like something that is a good thing or a bad thing, if it's evil or if it's good. But for me, I want to believe that everything is going to be okay, that everything's going to improve in my life and I'm going to be well off, And sometimes I worry about, my age getting up into my 60s and stuff. One thing I found out is that I was on Instagram, and sometimes you run into those For You pages, especially on my For You page. I'm always running into these information and stuff, and they're talking about Medicare. And I don't know much about Medicare, but I do know this, and that when you turn 65, you are automatically enrolled into Medicare, whether you like it or not. If you don't want to be enrolled in Medicare, and this is one thing I thought this is really great, was that you have to call, or you have to, I think you have to talk to an insurance agent, and then be prior to being 65 years old, and letting them know that you don't want to be enrolled into Medicare automatically, but you want to change that prior, so that way you don't get stuck into that Medicare system. So anyways, and I don't know much about Medicare. All I know is that it does take care of some, medical expenses, and it does take care of some other medical expenses. But there's part A and B and D and all these other, I think it's A, B, D, A, B, C, and D, or something like that. So the D part you always have to have, because it has to do with pharmaceutical stuff, that you have to make sure that it takes care of all your medications and things like that. A and B, I'm not quite sure. This has to do with your surgeries and something. But I know that if you are in the hospital, the Medicare will take care of, I don't know how many days they take care of, 20, I'm not sure how many days they take care of, and they cover for free if you are in a bad situation and you have to stay in the hospital and get rehabilitated, and then they transfer you into a skilled nursing facility or a nursing facility. And so once they take you into the nursing facility, the Medicare will cover, I think, 20 or 30 days. I think it's 27 days or something like that into the nursing facility. And then you have to apply for long-term care services to cover those expenses of your nursing facility if it extends over 20 something days, something like that. So that's the one thing I found out about since I work in the long-term care. It's kind of, I really need to get myself educated more into the Medicare and, getting transitioned into, and what, expenses are covered and all these costs and stuff, because a lot of times, some of the people, they ask me, do you know anything about Medicare? And I'm like, no, not really, I don't. But I used to work with somebody who knew everything about Medicare, and he was my go-to every time. He was my go-to. And I used to work with him closely, and he was so smart. I mean, he's still smart. He really is. He's like someone that I have always looked up to and learned a lot from, because he was that educated. I mean, I'm educated too, but I tend to look at others that, men mostly, that are like a lot more educated than me, like my boyfriend. I think he's more educated than me. And so he's got a lot of, I guess you can call street smarts. So he knows a lot. There was this time, and I told him that I have a bachelor's and a master's degree, and he doesn't have any degrees, just certificates, tons of certificates, which I think that's really awesome that he's that brilliant, and to me, he's a brilliant man, even though he doesn't have degrees. And I had told him that one night when we were talking, and he said, well, you're smart, you have degrees. And I said, doesn't matter. I mean, because I told him one night that in conversations, you're a very smart man. You're way smarter than me. I think you're the smartest person I have ever known. You're more smarter than I am. And then he looked at me and he said, well, you have a master's degree. And I'm like, that doesn't mean nothing. That doesn't mean jack shit to me, because, a lot of times, having that street smarts is better than having a degree. My dad is the smartest man. He didn't even graduate high school. He didn't even get through a middle school, and he doesn't even know his ABCs. He doesn't know any of that, but he can read and he can write, and he's so smart with his money that he knows how to budget. He knows how to save. He's very financially aware of everything. And so my boyfriend is the same way. He's very smart financially. To me, he is. He's brilliant that way. He's just like my dad. And I look up to him in that retrospect, you know what I mean? I think that's the reason why I'm so attracted to him, is because he's got the qualities of my dad, which is really odd. And as I've mentioned before, him and my daughter mirror each other, which is really crazy, but it's true. They mirror each other, and it's like I struggle with my daughter a lot, but I am always walking on pins and needles with her and try not to make her mad. And so my boyfriend is not that way. He's very patient until his sugar level just drops and he needs something to eat. And then he's like, rawr, rawr. And I'm like, okay, let's go and get you something to eat. So before you even, chew my head off or anything like that. So, but anyways, yeah. So I have to make sure that he's fed. Or when he says my sugar level is dropping and I need to eat now, and I'm like, okay, let's go and find a restaurant right away or something, and let me make something for you or whatever, So I have to keep that in mind if ever, we're in a tough situation where we have to stay with each other for a week. If I happen to get stuck in his place or something, I have to make sure that I have to be prepared. I have to plan things with this guy, and make sure that I'm knowledgeable and wise. I have to really educate myself with him, and I really have to say, like when I order something from the restaurant, it's just the same thing for my daughter. I have to really think about and plan everything that I'm going to say and make sure that it's on the dot and that it's ready to go, and then it's complete and it's done. And they don't have to hear me say, well, or backtrack. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like what I do. But so I better stop talking because I got to go and do this thing. I had, it's a half track, but I can like run on the asphalt and then do that. But I'm thinking I'm just gonna kind of trot and walk, listen to my music, and just kind of enjoy my time. Anyways, I will let you go. It's a little chilly, but I think I'm gonna do good. I think I'm gonna get there. And I've been experiencing some warm hot flashes, and I think that's the time right now. I think that's the change in my body that I have to experience now. Now that we're talking about New Year's, new new things has happened in your new age every year. So this is one of the things that I have to deal with is hot flashes, and which is very I'm so kind of nervous about it, but at the same time I'm okay. I'm all right. I'll be okay. So anyways, have a good day. Enjoy your Saturday. I'll probably chime in again. Probably tomorrow. I don't know. We'll discuss something else. I don't know what I'm going to be discussing, but I'll think of something. And I'm always on, trying to think of some things to discuss and, talk about and stuff like that. So anyways, for you ladies, just be happy if you're going through your ages, growing old and stuff, and embrace it, because I'm trying to, and it's really hard, but you just got to do what you got to do. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye. Let's see what I have to do to stop this.